Chinese people seemed to get it when we said it, or were good at pretending we were making sense out of politeness. But after a couple of years, no one had yet answered my query after their well-being in a satisfying way, by saying, for example, fine. Most often when the question was posed, it was returned with a nervous laugh or nodding of the head, at times a ni hao, hello, or literally you good, in return. I never realized all of this until one day when one of my Bible students felt comfortable enough with me to inform me that the way Westerners responded to compliments was strange, or that asking how a person was as a way to open a conversation was weird. Chinese people didn't show interest or concern in the same way we did. Instead, they'd state the obvious, or something they had observed to open an exchange. You just came back from the market, or you're going to work, or you look tired. Or, as one student learning English told me in the morning, you've lost weight. And another that same afternoon, you've put on weight. What had actually happened was that I had gotten a haircut. It's possible that this was because in China, you just saw so many people in one day, it was too much to deal with if you asked about everyone's well-being. After a number of years facing down the thousands upon thousands of people I'd see in a day, I did not want to know how each of them was feeling either. Also, if a person here was to inquire after one's well-being, they would do it by asking if they had eaten yet, to show concern. I was never offered food when I said no, but then when I asked, how are you, I never really thought about whether the person was okay or not, did I? On the other hand, even though no one inquired about your state of being, there were many questions asked of a very personal nature. For example, the top 5 questions that a new acquaintance might ask would often include, how old are you? How much money do you make? Do you have a girlfriend or boyfriend? Why don't you have any children? And if you are pudgy at all, how much do you weigh? Almost any of which would be considered grievously rude in our cultures and possibly cause a lot of discomfort. How differently one had to think in order to function in this society became evident to the foreigner early. Seemingly mundane tasks turned into perplexing challenges. For example, sending a letter, where Westerners write addresses from the conceptually smallest part of the address to biggest, starting at the individual with the person's name and ending at the country. Chinese people address their letters starting at the country and ending with the person. When Westerners state our names, we start from our given name and end with our surname. In China, it's the opposite. This was a symptom of a greater cultural difference. Where in the West, the matters of life revolved around the individual, in China, the individual was subject to the greater structures they were a part of. Family and country came first, just as they did on their envelopes and in their names. There was also the minefield of what was lucky or unlucky. To us, the concepts of luck or unluckiness were childish things of cats and ladders. But in China, luck is taken very seriously, and unluckiness even more so. Certain numbers, those that sounded similar phonetically to the Chinese word meaning death, could produce a severe level of anxiety, especially given that foreigners have difficulty with a major feature of the Chinese language. When you change your intonation, you change the meaning of a word. So, while a new student of Chinese may have thought they were innocently saying that they wanted to go to the 4th floor, they could actually have been telling someone about their death. And this in a culture where talking about death is a serious taboo. Other things that seemed like nice gestures, for example, presenting an item as a gift that, unknown to you, was unlucky, could be scandalous. When one older witness friend brought Jean a clock for a housewarming gift, after noticing that she used her cell phone as her alarm clock, Jean's roommate let out an audible gasp as the wrapping paper was peeled back. In Chinese, a language full of homonyms, the phrase, give a clock, sounded exactly like the phrase for attending another's funeral, thus rendering the gift completely taboo. What were the odds that someone would choose a clock, the worst possible gift, as a present? It's not as if clocks were common presents. But this was how it happened, and at times it felt like almost anything that you did without thinking, or whenever you did what seemed like the natural thing to do in your culture, turned out to be the thing you should have thought a little more about. Then there were the matters of health. On hot days, when I would arrive at a Bible study,